That's how we're gonna do it. Black boy, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna keep it real with you. I wanna live better, eat better. I wanna love better, sleep better. I wanna feel so aligned, sublime. One time for the state of mind, two times for elevated rhymes. Know I architected when I lay design. I drown noise out of the clear blue. I sit, twist the threads of said silence. That's an heirloom. I am the shepherd, I shear sheep. Still fleece funds from the have-it-alls to the matadors who sidestep the bull beautifully to that applause. Around rappers, a higher caliber catalog shines, reminds I ain't coming to flatter y'all. I spark chatter, dark matter, the sharks scatter on these dark waters. Who walk taller, who barks orders? God body, guarding what all the laws taught us. Not a peer, it's rear, they veer near. I pierce deep, I'm revered, my steps remain clear with fierce sweeps. Not a man here who could censor me. I'm on the pier, Elohim with the energy. Black boy, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna keep it real with you. I wanna live better, eat better. Yeah. I wanna love better, sleep better. Yeah, I wanna feel so aligned. Let me talk to y'all over here. Sublime. One time for elevated rhymes, two times for showmanship, three times for black hands and land ownership. Revolution I bring to you, wedding ring bling to you. Nisi blues on war tunes to sing to you. I am a rebel without a pause, no applause. Trust me, I must be Chuck D getting mine off. Many fools been clock watching my moves, and I needed a reappraisal of flavor. I took the time off. Now, back Jesus, black feet is slumbering unborn. Ark of the covenant curtain untorn. I'm a rose that rose to etch prose in Rosetta Stone. Yelling it through a megaphone, always rapping, baby, forever home. I ain't the pot calling the kettle black. I'm the flame keeping the kettle warm, and I am the blame for the renaissance. It's cold. Had to write and recite it with down feathers on. Black boy, tell me how you really feel. Cause I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I just wanna keep it real with you. Yeah, I wanna live better, eat better. I wanna love better, sleep better. Yeah, I wanna feel so aligned, sublime. Sublime. I wanna live better, eat better. Sublime. One time for elevated rhymes, two times for showmanship, three times for black hands and land ownership. Revolution I bring to you, where the ring bling to you. Nisi blues on war tunes, singing to you. I am the rebel without a pause, no applause. Trust me, I am Chuck D, getting mine off. Many fools, they clock watching my moves, and I needed a reappraisal of flavor. Took some time off now. Back Jesus, black feet is slumbering unborn. Ark of the covenant curtain untorn. I'm the rose that rose to etches prose in Rosetta Stone. Still yelling it through a megaphone. Always repping, baby, forever home. I ain't the pot calling the kettle black. I am the flame keeping the kettle warm. I'm the blame for the renaissance that's cold. I write and recite it with down feathers on. I love you and write and recite it with down feathers on. That mean that shit cold. And I'm the coldest. Listen, it's the message right here. Black boy, tell me how you really feel. Cause I just wanna build with you. Black girl, tell me how you really feel. I wanna keep it real with you. I wanna live better, eat better. I wanna love better, sleep better. Yeah, I wanna feel so aligned. Sublime. Y'all give a round of applause to this band right now. When they tell me they want to feel the chords a little more, then we got to do that shit again. That wasn't in the rehearsal. We didn't do that. That was not a part of the set list. Roderick was just in my head like, yo, let's do it again. So we're going to do it again. So we did it again. This next record, we're going to get into it since we're having a message to my black boys. Tell me how y'all really feel. I know y'all going
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Black women, tell me how you really feel. I know y'all going through it. Y'all been going through it. So we're
Y'all
going
come on in.
to talk to y'all directly. Because
Please, if you can hear me, put a thumbs up in the chat.
I love y'all forever, and I'm unapologetic about that love.
I realized I made a mistake during the previous stream. I left the music running, and it ran on a loop. And most people couldn't tell, but I got the hearing of a hawk, so it bothers me to this day. But good evening, welcome to another stream. My name is Alan. Appreciate you guys joining us. Right now, we only have 20 people in the building. Please, if each of you guys could click that like button, click the subscribe button if you haven't already. This will be a fantastic conversation. It will be well worth your time. We're joined by a very special guest this evening. If you don't know who he is on the thumbnail. He's been viral for the past few months. Mr. Jeff St. James is joining us tonight. So please put a thumbs up in the chat, like the stream for our guest, and also click in the title. His channel is linked. It is Ask a Brother Podcast. Please head over to his channel. He's creating a lot of heat right now. So click that subscribe button when you head over there. So before we get started, if you have or haven't noticed, the stream is members only. Well, it's a public stream, but the chat is members only, just so we can focus on the topics at hand. We have a lot to cover with our guest. And also Miss S. Ed is also going to be policing the chat. So thank you guys again for being here. S. Ed, thank you so much. I appreciate you. If you are interested in becoming a member, hit that button, consider it. You could also gift memberships and streams like this, you'll have access to communicate directly with myself and our guests. So thank you so much again for joining us. All right. Before we bring up our guests, let me add Instagram. Hope you guys are doing well. I know usually there's the chat is a little busier, but since it's members only, it's going to be a bit slow. All right. Without further ado, I wish I had sound effects. Mr. Jeff St. James, how you doing, brother?
What's going on, bro? What's up?
I'm happy to have you here, man. This conversation has been a long time coming. You know, we've been having conversations about actually collaborating. So I appreciate you lending your time, your expertise, your energy, and your effort, man. Appreciate you being here.
Man, I appreciate you welcoming me into your space.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So let's see. I don't want to do the cliche thing of like introducing yourself, but like just give a quick intro and talk about like why people have seen your face. Like what happened that launched you into virality.
So the name is Jeff St. James. I am a licensed therapist with the state of Pennsylvania as of now. Anyway, I think some people want me to lose that license, and and my podcast is Ask a Brother Podcast, and my hope is just to bring common sense back to spaces where apparently we aren't allowed to say certain things or speak truth into certain spaces and places. And, you know, pop culture stuff I'm pretty interested in, like you are, politics, dating, race, just different cultural things, and giving my lens and perspective on it. As far as what went viral, or at least the first time things went viral, was with two ladies on Sharing My Truth podcast located in Canada, where I was doing my rounds of doing interviews and sharing perspectives that maybe people hadn't really heard of. And they had brought me on to discuss masculinity and men and incel culture, and just hearing things from men's lens of why, from men's lenses, the dating market and experience is what it is and what life is like for men. So I think apparently in one of my passionate moments, it got clipped up. And the key part where I was talking about all the things that most people in society, and especially women, don't really factor or care too much about in regards to men. I just articulated what many of those things and unique challenges are for men. And a lot of men and people, I guess, appreciated the fact that I brought attention to it and spoke to it to women on their own platform, which apparently was something that a lot of men don't often get to do in their real everyday lives. So I think that's what happened.
Absolutely. I'm curious, what have you learned since virality? Like what were you surprised by? What kind of caught you off guard? What were some, I guess, the growing pains of all the notoriety and people knowing your face and your name?
A mix of things. I think it's one thing to kind of know how social media tends to work in terms of people kind of listen and respond to what they want to listen to and respond. It's another thing when they're doing that, when hundreds or thousands of people are doing that to you.
Yeah,
because I can watch it. I can see people in the comments not matching what I just watched and be like, why did they only focus on that part? It's kind of different when tons and tons of people are kind of doing that when you put your ideas out to the public forefront. It's been very interesting seeing the entitlement of people who think that I should respond or engage in everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's weird. And then also the sheer the speed of how quickly this stuff kind of caught on and built up the following as fast as it did. At the July 3rd, it was about 130 people subscribed to my page, and now we're almost at 23,000, I think, or something like that.
Man, congrats.
From last month to this month. So it's definitely happening pretty fast. I'm not shocked by the size. I'm shocked by how quickly it got to that size. I thought in maybe 2 to 3 years it would be about that point. So things just me being me and knowing how shocking it is to the people around me. I wasn't surprised if I turned on the microphone and turned on a camera, it was going to be very similar experiences to what I've actually experienced in my regular life. So that didn't shock me at all that I was saying, because I'm saying things that many therapists either are afraid to say or weren't aware of are issues that, especially even in my own field. So I'm kind of hitting things from multiple angles. So I wasn't too surprised that I wasn't going to be popular across the board, but I'm grateful that a lot of people are seeing there's some truth to what it is I have to say.
Absolutely. I'm reminded of like one of the conversations I've had with Dr. T. Hassan Johnson. He talked about how a challenge that he found like navigating academia, a lot of it was female centered. A lot of his education, and also when he became an educator, what he was being encouraged, or I use encouraged kind of loosely, but what he was being demanded to teach was feminist centered literature. How was that for you, kind of navigating academia, and how were you able to go from that to kind of where your position is now?
I would argue it's actually worse in mental health than even in the educational domain. And the reason why is twofold. One, there's still a significant presence of a level of objectivity that's allowed in academia, because you get to point to actual things you're referencing to justify your arguments and your viewpoints. Whereas in clinical setting, things are a little bit more subjective. And it's heavily skewed because it's 75% of the practitioners are female. So by default, and then when you factor in who the audience or consumer base is, it's a huge percentage of women. And you have to wonder, if it's 75% women are running to it and using it, and even using it as cues and screening from the beginning of, I can't deal with a man that hasn't gone to therapy. Like, it's gotten to a place where it's now functionally like a tool that's being utilized and even weaponized at times against men who don't believe it's curated for them. And what I mean more in detail is, number one, any psychologist, psychiatrist, or researcher worth their salt will tell you, on average, statistically speaking, women use far more words to communicate throughout the day and just in general during conversations. They like to talk. That's their thing. And the mental health field is primarily known for that. And the unfortunate part is when there's a heavy emphasis on talk therapy and narratives and feeling validated and believing that your healing is primarily connected to what you're saying and how often you can say it and who you can say it with to receive that validation. There is another spectrum of thought that's not really being as elevated, which is talking is cool, but actions matter too. And for a lot of people, but specifically men, there's a reason why women are leaning and running to it and a lot of men are not. And it's because the field is leaning much more towards female styles of communication. It's rewarding that piece. And it's penalizing people who don't want to talk as much and are much more interested in either processing and action-oriented stuff. And a lot of men will tell you, I tend to feel better when things are getting better, when I'm being shown strategies, steps, and techniques to improve the issue that I'm struggling with or I'm having trouble with. And if they feel like they have to keep talking about the same thing over and over, it actually frustrates them and makes them want to leave or not even engage at all. And then you have the second tier issue where if a huge majority of women are running to treatment, running to therapy, and they're convincing their boyfriends and men to come in, by default, if she's the one initiating it, it's because she's the one that sees it as a higher issue, a concern, and she's anticipating that the clinician, the therapist, the psychologist, whoever's going to meet with them, is going to be to some degree validating her perspective of who and what is the issue, him. So just to clarify, it's not often that the woman is saying, "I'm the issue, I'm the problem. We need to come to therapy and fix me." We're saying that the issue in our relationship, issue in our marriage, and the way to resolve that is to fix him. And the third issue with that, if it's already kind of catered to their communication style, and a huge percentage of them are already engaging in it and doing it, and they're the ones initiating, making it happen, you have this decent percentage of clinicians, either knowingly or unknowingly, that's heavily skewed towards femme-centric viewpoints, femme-centric thought processes, and in terms of communication style. So as an example, if you're doing couples therapy and the man and the woman comes in and one person clearly wants the treatment and wants to pay for it, and the other doesn't even understand the need and purpose of this, as the clinician who's going to get paid based off of how this session goes and going forward, who are they going to try to keep happy? You know, like,
incentivize people going.
Yeah. So in clinician after clinician, if you get them in a room and you turn the cameras off and turn the microphones off, and you ask them, when you try to keep it balanced and try to point out what both parties are doing to contribute to it, who struggles with that a lot? What they'll say is the person who initiated the therapy session is often the one who struggles the most with actually hearing how they also contributed to the demise or the decline of the relationship. So when you factor in all three of those things and other things, man, I even heard something recently from a therapist where he said, a female woman therapist said, "Oh, I don't do couples therapy," which is totally normal in the field. Everybody has their niche. Everybody has their specialization. Some people want to focus on anxiety, depression, trauma, couples, children, adults. Like, everybody has their thing that they prefer. But the way in which she said it made him kind of curious. And he said, well, why, what's your issue? You just don't like working with couples? Is it like too complicated to work with both people simultaneously? And she said, no, I know that I'm biased for women. And that to me is the thing that I'm hinting at. The issue is not that she had the self-awareness to acknowledge, oh, I shouldn't be doing couples therapy because I know I'm going to be skewed towards the female side, the woman's side. That's great that you're not doing couples therapy, but you're biased enough and you're still doing individual therapy with women who are bringing up issues with men. So when you have women like that, think about it. When you have women and people, not just men and women who think similarly to her, and they're constantly validating the person that's in front of them and not the person who's not in the room, these people are being pushed to think about their own happiness and not what's going to happen in the fallout. They're being pushed to prioritize validating their feelings and emotions, as if all feelings are valid, as if all emotions are good, as if all thoughts are healthy. They're being validated in an arena where confrontation is not nearly what it should be. And a lot of women aren't seeking confrontation. And the reason why they keep going, many of them, is because they're never being confronted on the very things that they're maybe doing to undermine the situations that they're resulting in. So as a result, man, when you factor all this stuff in, we're doing more therapy in the States. We're doing more therapy. We're doing more mental health access and services than ever before. And our cultural civilization is more destabilized. Men hate women and women hate men more than ever before. Families are broken. Marital rates are horrible. Everything is declining, and we have more access to mental health services than ever before. I'm tempted to believe maybe something's happening in the mental health field that's actually going under the radar, that's contributing and not helping to fix these issues. If everybody is access to therapy, if a whole bunch of people are getting it and the outcomes are worse, then maybe something's happening in the field that people aren't recognizing or acknowledging. And that's basically what my critique is to the field.
So I've got a quick clip that I want you to respond to.
Mhm.
It basically touches on what you just said. So let's play it real fast.
Have you been able to cure so far?
I would say one.
How many people have I cured? Well, there are no real cures right now in psychiatry.
Yeah. The idea of any, you asked me about the issue about how many people I've cured. I don't know that any of us are ever completely cured of anything.
I have not been able to cure many patients.
I have cured none of my patients.
So I bring that video up because, and you made a very interesting point about therapy as an industry kind of catering to women.
Mhm.
One of the things I've been talking about is the um, the reality, at least today, and I think it's pervasive with everything, particularly in the male female war dynamic. But men are incapable of seeing themselves as victims, and women are incapable of seeing themselves as perpetrators. And I think
Mm.
part of the reason, like, there's the media component, but there's also like the academic component, like I brought up earlier, but also the therapy component that uh, basically says, whether overtly or covertly, the person who identifies the problem or a problem is the victim of the problem, as opposed
Mm.
to somebody who could be being framed as the victim is actually, as the perpetrator is actually the victim, and vice versa. And I came across some research that apparently talk therapy as an industry was invented for women. What are your thoughts on that? What is your, I guess, as somebody in behind the curtain, like what's your perspective on how the industry and the rise in its popularity kind of contribute to the intergender dysfunction?
Yeah, I actually agree with a lot of your findings, and I've looked at those myself. And then when we look at the results, I think it's kind of clear that it's primarily catered to and for women. Now, the issue, from a clinician perspective and from a professional perspective, when you think about it, is like, we are supposed to be trained to not only use evidence-based models that have data to back up why it is that we're offering this therapeutic approach and intervention versus this one with this particular person versus this one, right? And then also, we're supposed to do what's called cultural awareness, cultural adaptations. We're supposed to factor in cultural differences to cater how we're trying to do this work with people based off their ethnic background, based off their history, based off of whether they have trauma or not, based off of linguistic issues, et cetera, et cetera. And the issue is that when you get all this training about cultural nuance, cultural differences based off of ability or physical limitations, intellectual issues, racial issues, by default, it's catering to women. And whether or not you're dealing with an adolescent, a child, or an adult, even the elderly, all of these are cultural adaptations, cultural awareness about the nuanced, unique perspective of the person who's representing coming from the particular population. The issue is that when you factor in all these different things that they want us to factor in my 10 years of doing this, never in my graduate studies, never in any trainings, not nationally recognized, not evidence-based, nothing. And I've done thousands of hours of training. And I'm even training other clinicians across the country. Has it ever come up about the unique experiences and psychological, emotional, and sociological perspectives of males or men? I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's already defaulted for women. That's why so many of them love to do it. So that's just that's the normal part of being culturally aware. Is a lot of these theoretical approaches heavily lean into what women are wanting and looking for anyway. But if there's such a high dropout rate, and there's such a huge percentage of men that just don't see the benefits of it and don't like it, rather than saying, well, maybe the field needs to create adaptations and components to factor and cater in the unique perspectives and challenges that comes with being a man in society or a boy in society. They just say that men and boys are broken, and that if they just start to learn, behave, and utilize the techniques and strategies that women use that makes them feel good, it makes them feel heard. Basically, if they act like women, they'll be better. That's in essence what you're basically saying and teaching, both in the educational setting, especially in
Yeah.
grade school,
Yep.
as well as when you're factoring in behavioral interventions or lack thereof, as well as in the mental health space. So what the result is, what this leads to when you get to those psychiatrists you just showed, when boys don't act like the girls, they get the higher diagnostic rate of, oh, they have ADHD.
Mhm.
We got to give them some pills for that. And I'm like, okay, but if boys naturally are going to be a little bit hyper than girls, and they're going to be a little bit rougher with how they engage and have fun, and there's not a space to be allowed to do that in a healthy way, and they don't get nearly as much time to do that as their bodies probably need to, higher likelihood of getting in trouble, higher likelihood of getting educational plans, behavioral modifications that moves them into certain classrooms or other schools, and so starts the pipeline. So when you do it on the mental health side, this is how relationships fall apart, because a lot of men don't feel heard. They feel like when they walk into these spaces, and talking about in the therapeutic space, they feel like it's 2 against 1. They believe that she intentionally or unintentionally stuck with a therapist that already agrees with her. And now she's constantly being validated and backed up with her sidekick, who can just,
Yeah.
now that you have this level of authority that you can back up, that now you got this professional backup. Now he's looking crazy when he's saying, but I'm living with you. I'm doing life with you. And I see the version of you that you're not projecting or sharing that also contributed to how we got here. So
Yeah.
only the therapists who are really good at figuring out a way to validate both groups, both individuals simultaneously. And even when they're meeting with just a woman one-on-one, being able to help her understand and see things from another perspective other than her own, which is a huge challenge, is getting a lot of these women who, when frustrated, when upset, struggle with seeing things outside of their own perspective, and they functionally become extremely solipsistic. It takes a while and a lot of work, not just one-on-one, but especially when their partner is next to them, and the focus is on how they're not living up to being a great wife, girlfriend, or partner. That's a lot for them to try to endure and do in real time. And you man, the countless times therapists have said the first time or second time they tried to hold her accountable and point out things she needs to work on, and the amount of times that they don't return as a couple is like, whoa, like, so we've been talking about him for the last 3 weeks, and now when we finally talk about you, now we don't want no more sessions. That's a real that's a real experience for a lot of experienced clinicians, man. So yeah, man, I think the field is heavily just skewed, and they're operating through that lens that if men act more like women, process more like women, communicate more like women, all will be well. And the problem is, even in the sessions when guys start to try to do it, a lot of ladies are learning that maybe what you're calling emotional intelligence is really code for him communicating in the way that I like without telling me things I don't want to hear. That's what you actually mean by emotional intelligence. You don't mean he's telling you when you're not living up to your duties, when you've lied, when you're upset with him about who he's following or what he's liking on social media, while your page is open and you busting it wide open for everybody to like and share on your page, but you have one standard for him and another standard for you. Like, a lot of them don't mean what they think. They don't actually mean what emotional intelligence actually is. And I would venture to say, and I think I've heard from you say something similar. A lot of ladies don't actually want emotionally intelligent men. They really don't. They really don't. So a lot of them, I think they're believing that because they went to therapy and their partner hasn't, they have a one-up mentality where they feel like he has to now meet me. And I'm like,
Mm.
there's a whole lot of broken people who are constantly being validated in their brokenness. And because they're single and because they went to therapy, they've convinced themselves they've grown a lot further than they actually have.
Mm.
So it's unfortunate, man, because the field I think has a lot of potential, and I think we've devolved into something that's the results are clear. Marriages and families and unity in society is not better. Despite how much therapy a whole bunch of folks are getting.
You brought up an interesting point, and I'm curious about it. You said that women say more words a day than men on average. You also said that whether or not therapy was invented for women, it's certainly been optimized for women.
Mm-hmm.
And also they kind of, and I've talked about this before, they kind of use it as a as almost like an emotional passport, right? Like I've gotten this Girl Scout badge, which makes me in some way superior to you emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Is Can this institution that is fundamentally against men, just using crass terms, can it work for men?
It can, but it's going to sound bad when I say this. Men have to get lucky with the therapist that's sitting in front of them.
Mm.
If most therapists aren't marketing themselves specifically for men's issues, male identity challenges, male transition, if they're not marketing themselves that way, all you have to go off of is the credentials and the body of work of people who are commenting or referring and saying, "Hey, it worked out for my homeboy, or it worked out for my this couple that I know." Outside of that, a lot of this is just Google searches and trial and error, so people hopefully find somebody that understands what it's like to be a man and the male experience and the unique challenges that comes with being a man and a boy in society. And then number two, back to what you said about how the field is kind of morphed and it's definitely now heavily catered for women. I actually think the reason for that is for the same reason that advertisers push the products that they do, and why when you go in the mall, there's always way more stores for women than for men. It's because women are consumers. They'll spend more. And if you can tell women what they want to hear and you'll listen to them and they'll pay you for it,
It makes sense.
it's a very lucrative field that will pay for itself.
Yeah.
And they don't even have to get the exact results they want to still pay you anyway. Relationships can be falling apart, and this is the kicker. They'll view everything but the therapist. A lot of them will view everything happening outside of the therapy room as the cause for what's happening and declining in their life, and not they and the therapist and what isn't happening that should be happening. It's an interesting thing, man. So I've literally met with ladies who have been doing therapy for years. And then when they get with me, I'm saying things that they never heard ever. And I'm like,
where you been?
I'm not saying anything revolutionary. I'm saying things that I realized their fathers, their brothers, and male mentors should have said and never told them about the male experience and what men care about and what men don't care about, what generally speaking men may find offensive. And validating something that's harming you isn't helping you. And it's just the approach of unconditional positive regard. Some things aren't positive, some things aren't good, and some things shouldn't be validated. We're at a space now where people are questioning what it means to be a woman. We're at a space where people can now change their identity left and right, and nobody's allowed to say anything. So if there's no other place in society where they're being told the truth, and then they're coming into therapy and their delusion or their lack of truth in what they're living and experiencing, believing is also not being challenged. You're having this scenario where a lot of people are thinking that they are something that they're not. They're further than they actually are. And then they're entering into relationships and dynamics into the world where they think everybody else is the narcissist. Everybody, like the field is functionally teaching these people, put so much time and energy into what you feel, what you think, what you like, what you
Yeah.
accept, that discomfort is set to the side. Tribulation is set to the side. Trials
Yeah.
is set to the side. All the components of what you're needing in order to be a healthy, mature human being that can deal with life's troubles and relationship challenges, you're not getting a lot of that in a lot of these therapy sessions with a lot of these clinicians, men and women included. So it's very frustrating for me. I was feeling it, I was thinking it, and it took me a while to actually realize until about 6 years ago when I started coming across red pill content and then going back through literature and finding there were psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists who had been talking about this and doing studies, and are doing studies now to show that
Yeah.
male centered focused treatment is even more effective than cognitive behavioral therapy standard approaches. So yeah, there's a movement, it's happening, and my hope is that it will help men more in the future, and hopefully people like me and other therapists in the space start bringing attention to how the field has been co-opted and what we should be doing about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've said on several occasions, it's almost like creating a generation of articulate victims. Like
Mhm.
they know how to articulate their ruminations about why it's not their fault, despite how, you know, self-centered they are, despite their inability to perform in the ways that are palatable to the people that they are wanting in their lives.
Mhm.
It's about everything and everyone else but me. But
Bro,
um
all this money spent on mental health services and therapy and all this stuff, and a lot of them still don't apologize.
Jesus Christ.
How you spending thousands of dollars a year
We go.
teaching therapy and
It's so you don't have to.
and you don't apologize to the
So you
men in
don't
your
have
life, past or present, and you're convinced that everybody in your past was the problem. What is the therapy actually doing?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little jarring and shocking for people, clinicians included, with what I'm saying, but the data and the outcomes speak for themselves to me.
1000%. For me, my biggest kind of place of interest right now is um, giving men the tools to better navigate these realities, because it kind of is what it is right now. Hopefully, it changes with the work you're doing and other people.
Mhm.
But one of the paradigms, and I brought this up with you when we kind of set this up, that I want to explore is the adored paradigm, adorer and the adored paradigm.
Mhm.
The I guess the theory was coined by Dr. Orion Taraban. He's also a YouTuber,
Mhm.
but he basically submitted that paradoxically, even though women say, and in modern context, are being socialized to be the star of the show, to be the star of the movie, to be the center of attention, they desperately crave to be the sidekick. Essentially, they desperately crave to have somebody worth pursuing, have somebody worth um, improving for, right? Rather than the other way around. Even though that's the story men are told. What's your position on that? How do you feel about that? How can men use that to refine themselves in a way that's going to make their mating and dating experience more seamless?
Yeah. So Dr. Orion, for the audience of people who haven't come across him, he's my favorite mental health person in the podcast space. I think that he's very reasonable. He's very balanced. He's very economic in how he
Yeah,
describes
yeah,
how relationships are. He
100%.
even wrote a book on the economic components of relationships, and how when people just are more honest and transactional, they know what each other is supposed to be giving and pursuing in terms of
Getting, yeah.
relationships. Yeah. So when I also came across this thing from him a few years ago, when he started talking about the adored versus adorer side, a component of how to analyze relationships between men and women. And my initial stance is, although I agree with him, that no two people love each other equally, simultaneously, just as much. And there's
Mhm.
usually a push and pull effect. There's usually somebody who's always kind of, pushing somebody up a little bit on the pedestal, so to speak, and the other person is kind of looking up, kind of
Mhm.
thing. I agree with him that women generally speaking, don't do a great job of being in that pedestal spot and looking down at the man who's quote unquote pursuing them. They ideally want to be with the man who they can look up to and thus be led by. And it's very hard to look at a man who's not making great money, who isn't as smart, or who isn't smart and can't teach you nothing and is weaker than you. The idea that they're going to be super satisfied with that type of man because he does everything they want him to do is not, I wouldn't put my money on that relationship lasting and both parties being satisfied and happy. And I think that's the case for a lot of women. So this is why when we say they're so hypergamous, they're usually saying in a range of areas, they ideally want the man to be at their level or better in some respects. And this is a man who they can learn from, who they can trust in, who they can stop working and still be provided for and be led by. So ideally, if a man is fitting all of those things, he would be the adored.
Yeah.
He would there be, if he's all of those things and you're not those things for him, then clearly he's the adored and you're the adorer. You're the one who's wanting to follow after him in his lead. I think that's probably, generally speaking, the healthiest dynamic for sure between men and women. Do I think it's the only dynamic that works? No. I think that there are men who genuinely do want more us being, on equal footing. We're co-partners, we're collaborators, we're co-pilots. And there are men and women that actually have very successful lives and marriages who do that. The problem is there's women who functionally say they want a man who's a leader and takes charge and handles all this stuff, but they're still trying to treat him and condition him to act as if we're here. And there's a problem with that. You're trying to take a square peg and force it into a circle hole, where you're trying to take the guy who's better at you than most things and that most women want, and you're trying to treat him as if you two are equals in terms of the relationship dynamic, in terms of expectations. Okay, like your physical biological drive is telling you you want the best of the man you can have, but your mind, your attitude, and your mouth says at best you want an equal, if not a man who actually listens and follows you. So that's actually what I've been noticing is kind of going on, is there's a misalignment with what it is that they're thinking that they actually want versus what their behaviors are saying. And then their behaviors and what they actually want and their behaviors are not matching, which is causing a lot of conflict in regards to the relationship. And then secondly, with the idea that he proposed about the adored versus adorer dynamic, I actually think that fluctuates within relationships. I don't think that it's rigid. I don't think that it's super black and white. I think it depends on the topic. It depends on the area of what each person is skilled at. I think a lot of men kind of do acquiesce naturally to their women's lead when it comes to a lot of stuff happening in the home. She's the nurturer. She's making the house a home. She's putting the children on a schedule and a routine to try to build some type of semblance of a set routine happening in the home and setting the environment. A lot of men want her to do that and even want her to lead in that space. So I think it kind of depends on what the area is in the confines of the relationship to dictate whether or not she's going to be leading in this area or he is. I think the problem is when there's no area in your relationship where you think your spouse is good, helpful, and could even lead to some degree. Now you're teetering on the potential for abuse. You're teetering on the potential for people who are unqualified to lead in a certain area. As a man, even if you're the leader, you're not an expert on everything. So I think that there's room for there to be a little bit more enmeshment in this and a little bit more collaboration on what's the things that she's going to hold down and what's the things that I'm going to hold down. And then the overarching authority at the end of the day, when the decision has to be made and we disagree, who's the one who gets final say? Is it him or is it your emotions? Is it him or your feelings or what your girlfriend said? Is it him or social media trends? And that's the thing that I think ladies who are saying they want this man that checks off all these boxes, if you don't learn what the type of woman that's best able to do life with that type of man is, you're going to keep overshooting and aiming for things that you're never going to be able to get to or maintain with these types of men. And the further and the more confident and sure he is and knows what he's doing in terms of his purpose and his value and his role in life, other people see his value, other women see his value. And when you try to treat him the way you treated the other guys, he's not going to move the same way as the other guys who are seeing you as the adored and they're your adorer and chasing after you. He's not going to have that same dynamic with you. He's going to have totally different expectations. And when you try to treat all these men exactly the same, these men are either going to play games with you, string you along, or never take you seriously from the beginning. So it's imperative that we as men and women get better with whatever it is, whatever version of who we want to show up as and how we want to be seen. Whatever it is that we want in the opposite sex, we have to better align with what's going to be able to do well with that. If you want to be a guy who wants to collaborate and you want a co-partner and you want a co-pilot and everything is by consensus, there are women that want that and they want equal say in everything. And if you want everything to be a discussion/debate, fine. There are women that genuinely want that and do not want a man to be a leader. There are women like that. There's going to be pros and cons and consequences, both positive and negative, that comes with that. And for the ladies that's trying to, I want a man that I adore and want to chase after, and I want to be led by him. He has expectations,
Right?
Right. I agree with the paradigm. I love that perspective. I just think that in the confines of relationships, we actually do take our turns doing this.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. I think something that I found interesting is, and I think you touched on it, but with the kind of backdrop of it's everybody's fault but yours, you are the protagonist in this movie, which, you're also the producer and the director and all that good stuff. What I found is, especially in our community, some women have began to, it's like part of their cognitive dissonance in not qualifying for the kind of man that they would otherwise want or they should want is now they've kind of painted that as negative. And they're also pedestalizing men where they can have that authority over. And they how do I put it? The kind and caliber of man that's being celebrated now is the man who adores, pun intended, his service to a woman, adores his pandering to a woman. I call them kind of attack dogs, right? Who are at women's beck and call as far as defending their interests, defending their perspectives, almost like he's not a man who's been a man, but instead he's a female apologist. So how do you think that's playing out? How do you think that's playing out where our community is almost like flipping the script and saying these less established, less opinionated, less authoritarian men are actually the better versions of men?
Yeah, it's a manipulation tactic and strategy to reward men that allow them to do and say and behave how they want. It's just a strategy. It's just a technique. A real man would, and then you fill in the blank. It's always the things they want to get away with.
Right.
They'll never end that sentence with things they're not measuring up to or living or behaving and doing and saying. It'll always be the thing that they want to be allowed to do. A real man wouldn't care what time she comes in with. A real man wouldn't care about the girl's trips. A real man wouldn't care about how she dresses on social media and she can wear what she wants. Right. A real man wouldn't be insecure about how many men it's always their definition of men, and the types of men that they quote unquote approve of are the men that always agree with them. So once you know this, you don't have to listen. What they're functionally trying to do is create a social clout system or social reward system where men who tell women what they want to hear, men who agree with women, and men who functionally are gay and or are male feminists, any man that falls into that tier who doesn't make me feel bad for my decisions or choices in life, he gets a point. The man who has a standard that I don't live up to, he gets a -1. A man who won't date women that act like me or dress like me, he gets a -1. The man who says it's fine, he gets a
Yeah.
+1. So
Yeah.
all it is just a manipulation tactic to try to control men that can't be controlled. And what they fail to realize is they always end up with men that either don't care about them, or men that are fearful of their judgment, or men that don't care about them, and men who are fearful of their judgment. Those are the only two types of men who base their masculinity on how women define it. That's it. That's how it works. Where it's like, how do you call him a man if he's scared to ever say anything that you disagree with? He's a male. He's an older male. He's a male feminist. But a man, in order for you to be considered a man, you have to be willing to speak the truth and stand up for what you believe to be right, even when no one else around you agrees with it. And this includes politics. This includes your household. This includes relationships. The guy who's scared to say how he really feels and thinks about things is just a manipulator who's just saying and doing what he can as a means to an end, to get you to sleep with him, to get you to like him, to get a lot of support amongst the women. And you'll always know who these femme-centric guys are, because they always expose themselves when you ask them a simple question. What's 3 things that women are doing in relationships, especially in the Black community? We say that, what's 3 things Black women are doing in relationships that they should be doing radically differently, that they're doing wrong with men? If they are objective, they'll be able to answer that like nothing. Because if you ask them the reverse and they say, what's 3 things that men need to tighten up on and do a much better job at to love and support and be able to make these relationships work with their women, he'll talk for an hour.
Sure.
But then when you ask them, oh, well, listen, man, you got a very detailed response of clearly things that men are doing wrong and how they're failing. What's the things that women need to do better at? Well, they're killing it with the degrees and they're making money. And I asked, what can they do that they're doing wrong that they can improve on? And that's how you'll know. And I'm saying this for the ladies as well. If you want to know who truly has your best interests, it's not the people who have never told you things you don't want to hear. The doctor who doesn't tell you what's wrong with you, what he finds in a test, because he doesn't want to hurt your feelings, is not trying to save your life. The coach who sees what you're doing wrong in practice and lets you do the same thing in the game is not trying to make you a better player. The teacher that sees that you're getting the test answers on the test wrong and is not correcting you, so that he's giving you the impression you're getting an A when you're really getting an F. So it's only the people who are willing to point out lovingly, artfully, tactfully, things that you may need to tweak or enhance with your behavior, your image, your style of communication, and your attitude. Those are the people who actually care about you. So when they're doing tours and they're selling out tickets and arenas and doing all this fun stuff, that's dope. But if he's never told you what you and other women are doing wrong and need to do different, and it's always about what you deserve and how men have failed you, that's a person who's pandering to you and selling you and telling you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear and what you need to know. So it's unfortunate, man, because it's a very lucrative market and it's not fun to be on this side and point out things that men and women need to do better. And the shocking part is, it's like each side doesn't watch when I'm talking to the other side. When I'm talking to men about what they need, all you doing is pandering to women. None of the women.
You preaching to the choir, man.
You're calling me
preaching to the choir. Yep.
So
You're simultaneously a simp and a woman hater all at the same time. It's ridiculous.
Yo,
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because we've kind of touched on how we've been kind of conditioned to, and even socialized to, infantilize women. Women have been socialized to not even be able to conceptualize being wrong, being incorrect, being the problem.
Mm-hmm.
When you ask a lot of men, what is it that you want from a woman? 90% of the time, we're all going to say peace, be his peace. We want peace, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And some women actually push back against that. But in a lot of social discourse, even, it seems like that peace thing, it does not come easy to them. Is there merit in the phrase, whereas men are kind of structure, women are chaos?
Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't use either of those words for both populations, honestly. I think men are more predictable
Mm,
and women are more fluid with what to expect from them on a daily and weekly basis. If that makes sense. And the reason why I would frame it more like that is it's fairly predictable the top 2 to 3 things a dude's going to do good and bad in a given week.
that's a
Like
fact. Yep.
we don't have this wide spectrum of various things we're going to get ourselves involved in, especially with drug use and abuse isn't on the table. There's
Mm.
not a lot of things, like either he's working or he's not, either he's productive or he's lazy, either he cheats or he doesn't cheat,
Mhm.
either he helps with the kids or he doesn't. Like that's kind of there's a spectrum of variability that's fairly predictable, where you can pretty much know with enough time and enough focus on what it is you're supposed to be paying attention to as a woman to fairly know what type of man you're dealing with. Now you can't
Mm.
predict 5, 10 years out, but you can kind of extrapolate and somewhat predict based off of, like, if he doesn't help you now with chores in the house and you give him a kid 2 years from now, and then you're complaining about the fact that he doesn't help you with the kids, that's not a surprise. Like, if anything, you thought when he gave you the ring and when you got married and you gave him a kid that he was going to change.
Mm.
Like, in reality, a lot of times these guys don't. On the
Yeah.
flip side, with the variability and fluidity of women, a lot of guys say, man, from the moment they're dating till they get exclusive, till they get in a relationship, every 6 months they could be dealing with a different woman. In terms of her actual emotions, her
Yeah.
hormones, whether she's pregnant, whether she's had a kid, whether she's in postpartum, or factors of things that's happening outside of your relationship, social media. There's just so many other things at play. Just even in terms of her own happiness, uh, controllability component, where it's like her ability to regulate her own emotions and whether or not she's an externalizer, internalizer when it comes to who's responsible for her keeping herself happy,
Yeah.
as well as if happiness is the most central important factor. There's a lot more wild card things at play with women. So I wouldn't necessarily say chaos as much as there's a much more fluid dynamic of what, like, for instance, a lot of men will say when they find the woman they genuinely want and she's showing a lot of the attributes they're looking for, they're hoping she doesn't change regardless of time, regardless
Yeah.
of ring,
Yeah.
regardless of kids. They actually want the woman they fall in love with, pursued, dated, and married. If they do get married, they ideally don't want her to change. She spends an awful lot of time of taking the imperfect guy who's flawed and trying to change him into the version she believes she can continue to submit to, listen to, follow, and respect and adore. And that's where I think a lot of the clashes are. And what's happening is she's changing and he doesn't want her to. And he's not changing and maintaining the changes she wants, and she's feeling dissatisfied. So that's usually the common dynamic I've seen.
So for men who are, you know, interested in long-term relationship with women, should they infantilize women? Should that be the normal, you know, process of kind of managing your expectations? Because consistency and predictability is part of the reason we respect other men, as an
Mhm.
example. Like, he's always going to show up. He's always going to do what he's supposed to do. But to your point, it doesn't seem like
Mhm.
predictability and consistency are necessarily inherent to women. So should we kind of give some grace or leeway to our expectations of women relative to men?
There is going to be more grace that you're going to share with your partner, male or female, than you're probably going to have to share with other people, where things are a little bit more understood in terms of social cues and expectations. It's a lot easier to know all right, this person who my coworker that's working with me can't yell at me. And if they do, that's probably one and one time only that's going to happen. That can happen in a relationship, especially one that you're planning on staying into, right? So there's already going to be grace by default for each other. In regards to women and the infantilization component, I would say you probably need to look for consistency in the areas that matter, because you're not going to look consistency across the board in all areas of her forms of emotional expression. That's highly unlikely. I'm sorry. That's just not a thing for a lot of men, for a lot of women. They're going to have great moments. They're going to have poor moments. They're going to have moments when you think she's the dopest girl in the world. And then there's other times you're like, yo, who the hell is this woman in front of me type thing. The most important thing or things is you have to figure out what's your list of non-negotiables that you do need a fair level of consistency when it comes to those key areas. For men, if fidelity, if her being faithful and loyal to you, her not seeking outside validation, especially from other men, is like super high on your list, you need to see consistency in that area when you two have disagreements. Where does she run to and who does she run to when you two aren't on the same page or you have a small or great disagreement? Because if she's constantly running to social media, well, Instagram got your B. Instagram got your girl. If she's running to her girlfriends, well, she wants to date you and marry you, but she prioritizes the voices and perspectives of everybody else but you.
Yeah.
If that's a really, really big issue that you want to see, you want to see and observe that very early on. And this is why it's important to me to be okay with being somewhat disagreeable, tactfully, respectfully at the beginning. When you ask them things that you know there's a high propensity they may not like or be open to or listening to, it's important for them to hear your actual views and stance on things. Because when you don't do that for the sake of their feelings and emotions, you're having them fall in love with your representative. So then when the real you finally comes out and she's invested all this time, equity, and energy, and now she feels like, nah, this isn't the guy I fell in love with. He's changed. No, you just revealed who you really were. So that's why I think it's super important, man, for us to just figure out what's the non-negotiables for me. And for me, I'll say personally, image was important. My voice and my opinion needed to matter. And even when upset, what's her varying degrees of respect and how much she struggles to be able to still maintain and display and show that? Is she throwing things at me? Is she cussing me out? Is she calling me names? Those are all non-negotiables for me. I don't care about what your emotional standard of regulation and how much it was just this. Nah, we're just done. We're just done.
Yeah.
So that's me, like super high on the list. So that's kind of how I would word it, where it's like you can't expect perfection in every area or any area, but you can expect consistency in certain areas that matter the most to you. I don't feel good as a man, and I don't feel like I'm a leader if the people who I'm responsible for don't respect me and don't listen to me. So those are high on the list for me. High. And when I feel like I'm with somebody who doesn't respect me and thinks they can outrank me based on what their emotions are telling them, this is how 911 gets called. This is how domestic disputes and stuff occur. So that's where I'm at. If I constantly have to worry about other men, you're not the girl for me. If I constantly have to worry about you seeking validation outside of me and our relationship, you're not the girl for me. And if you start to change and deviate from the years that you show me that you weren't like that, and then you are, I'm gonna bring it to your attention. And if you feel that that's the type of time you want to be on, I respect your right to do that, and you'll respect my right to find somebody who is going to be that. And that's my stance on it. So when men start moving like that and stop cowering around women's feelings and trying to infantilize them, like, of course you have to be understanding. Of course you have to recognize they're different than you. But I don't find that treating grown adult women who will leverage the court system against you and the police against you and society against you. Things don't work out. They ain't acting like children then. They acting like grown women that want to punish the man who let them down or hurt them. So they ain't a little girl in divorce court. They're not a little girl when they call 911. So why are you quote unquote treating them like a little girl when you're trying to court and pursue and figure out who's going to be the mother of your child to continue your legacy? I think as men, we kind of have to raise the bar and reward the women that are just a little bit more mature.
I agree 1,000%. I think what makes that kind of difficult, and we've kind of touched on it, but we've been socialized to infantilize women. We've been socialized just by default to give women the benefit of the doubt. And I think even when we talk about things like chivalry, things like the patriarchy, it assumes in large part that a woman's behavior, a woman's decorum, the version of her that you get is heavily or the most heavily dependent on the type and caliber of man that you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that some men, more than just I don't necessarily love myself or this is what I'm used to because this is what my mom was.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a sadomasochistic challenge. Like I'm going to tame this woman, right? And based on yesterday she was cussing me out, but today I got her moaning my name or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He has linked. He's created like internal incentives for himself that are satisfied when he's able to, soothe her from her chaos to something that seems more like a woman. And I think in addition to that, there's a lot of social discourse around the idea that, because women are inherently innocent and because women are inherently good people, that the type of woman that you are dealing with and how she shows up for you is your responsibility, as opposed to some inherent nature that she already had. So how can we as men start because we participate in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can we start undoing this and start moving in the other direction?
Well, it's a lot easier to do that with women that are entering into your world, entering into your space versus one that you already have that's put her roots down and is established who and how she wants to show up. So that's number one. Because the woman that you've been with for years, you've already set the tone for how she should see you and view you and respect you or lack thereof. So now you got to do a whole lot of undoing when you were supposed to establish certain things from the beginning. Me coming off as somewhat disagreeable was very helpful to me with regards to the women who I chose to engage with from my last relationship till now, where they kind of knew I wasn't going to just tell them always what they wanted to hear or agree. And if they thought that we were going to go back and forth, you're going to have to be able to substantiate your argument and not be emotional when you do it. Otherwise, we won't have the conversation. Sorry. And what I've learned is most men that are doing what you're saying, it is a lot of conditioning. It is a lot of upbringing, but it is also a scarcity mindset when it comes to women. When you think that if you lose the horrible job that you have, you're not going to be able to find a job for 6 months. You're going to endure and tolerate anything that job is basically doing to you. But when you know you have 3 other companies that's lined up and ready to hire you immediately, what's your attitude with dealing with the job that doesn't pay you on time, that the customers disrespect you, it's trashy everywhere, and you just feel like you're not respected as a man or as a human being?
Yeah.
You're much more likely to leave when you feel like there's actually legitimate other options out there. That's where what you said matters. Yes, it's true. And this is the issue. People treat women's behaviors, especially in regards to men, strictly and primarily through the lens of it's men's actions that dictate what you're going to get from women. Right. I would argue that that's a false choice. Either it's 100% on the woman or it's 100% on the men. No, this is called an interaction. This is called a relationship. That means 2 parties are contributing to why the dynamic is what it is. And when I'm talking to women, I try to explain to them femininity. You shouldn't view femininity as an option, as an on and off switch. Femininity is just something that you are to all people, regardless. That's what you just exude, and submission is the piece that you decide which man gets that. So either she's a feminine woman or she's not. So whether the dude is the mailman, the garbage collector, a male coworker, her boss, the guy that she's with, either you're a feminine woman or you're not. We're not talking about submission and with all of these men. I'm talking about just being feminine. Can you imagine men walking around and saying, "Well, I need this woman to bring out my masculinity"?
Yeah. My basic don't come back when
when the right woman comes along, then I'm gonna be a man. No, let's just be a man. Just be masculine generally. And the woman who earns it, the woman who warrants it, you offer additional provision and protection specifically and exclusively for her. So we don't have conditional masculinity, and we're acting as if their conditional femininity is based on the man that's before them. I would argue my starting point with men is we'll do a much better job of getting the right women to grow, to change, and to just be if we spend more time, money, resources, and energy just rewarding the women that are. That just are. So when you
that brings up,
stop trying to tame beasts. Like get out the wild.
That brings up a very interesting thing that I've heard a lot, actually. I believe some men, and you've heard the rumor that the best vagina is crazy women, or that nobody's gonna love you better than a hood chick, or whatever the case may be. I've also heard from women who are more agreeable, who are more feminine, that they've encountered men who were requesting for them to be more volatile because he had grown accustomed to a woman's volatility, meaning that she was in love with him. So when he encountered a woman that wasn't volatile, it made him insecure that she wasn't as invested as women in the past. So, like, for those men, because we're talking about like the complexity of this infantilization, but for those men who've attached in like perverse incentives towards those toxic women, and which it disincentivizes them to leave the toxic women, and then it incentivizes more women to be toxic, just like we talk about with dudes. More dudes want to be Future. How do we undo that?
From both sides, man. I think my starting point is always the end point. What's the outcome? Is what you're saying you want, is what you're saying you find really exciting, what you're saying you're used to. Is it producing and giving you the outcome that you actually want? Like, a lot of the stuff we can skip ahead when people end up in front of me in the chair on the sofa, and I say, "So how's that been working out for you?"
Right.
And I think when we get caught up in how things feel, when we get caught up in what we want, when we get caught up simply in how exciting something is, that's what's led and contributed to the single mother household epidemic. That's what led to single parent households. That's what led to the decline in every cultural norm that we've had traditionally. It's because everybody's focused primarily on how it feels and not whether it's good, not whether it's helpful, not where it's leading toward. Well, I know that I really prefer this type of chick, but every time I do it, my car tires get slashed and they pulling up to my job. But it's so exciting. Yeah, but bro, what is it? Yeah, like, come on, wake up now. Well, these other guys are so boring. Well, the guys that's not boring, putting your head through a wall, constantly got you going into getting stalked by other women. So for me, I'm not as interested in trying to quote unquote change those things. I'm more interested in first getting people to because when people are on the stage of change, the person who's talking that way is at the pre-contemplative stage of change. They're not even contemplating changing things. I'm interested in the people who aren't happy with their outcomes and recognizing that perhaps in order for me to get a better outcome, I have to do something different. So the only way you get there is people will eventually realize what they're saying and doing isn't working. And they decide, and then they're questioned enough either on their own or by somebody who's a mentor or professional who can say, like, listen, man, I mean, if you want better outcomes, you got to pick better women. If you want better outcomes, you have to pick better men. And it's very easy to say it's all the men. It's all the women that's the problem. The accountability aspect of no. It's the men I'm picking. It's the men that I'm sleeping with. It's the men who I hold no standards to because they excite me. It's the women who don't have to carry themselves a certain way, and I'm still willing to give them access to my resources. That's the issue. So yeah, it's people going to make the choices they want to make, and I find that if they're going to make a change, they usually have to get frustrated enough with their outcomes to want to desire to do something different.
So I was thinking about something the other day. I'm gonna say it, and then I want you to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking. I said it's more important that a woman is sexually attracted to you, and it's more important that a man is intellectually attracted to you for a long term sustainable relationship. What say you? And I say that because I think it sounds paradoxical because we talk so much about how men over-index on their physical attraction to a woman and women over-index on their feelings. But like, based on what we're seeing today, do you think there's any merit to that?
Yeah, I think the inverse of what everybody thinks of what men and women primarily prioritize, I think you're actually right on. I think that the intellectual stimulation and the value you can see in her starts to outweigh just the sexual appeal, because most women have that piece. Most women do not have the value piece, the asset versus liability component from a man's eyes that wants to actually build something. Her being a contributor versus seeing her as just an extractor. Like, yeah, that's very hard to find. And I think the guys that will try to lock in and build with those ladies, they are at that point where what you're talking about. They're starting to see her for more than just sex. They're seeing the other ways in which she's irreplaceable and she's hard to replace. So I actually agree with you. And then on the flip side with ladies, as much as they want to, it's all about emotional stimulation. It's a lot easier when attraction is maintained and there's a level of mystique and mystery and unpredictability when it comes to when he surprises her with things, when he showers her with gifts randomly, when he does something romantic just because it's Tuesday. This is a man she can't, and she knows that he's busy. She knows that she has a purpose. She knows that he has a lot going on, and he figures out and finds time for her even when she doesn't anticipate it. And even lets her know by the gifts and ways in which he makes time for her that he's listening, even when it doesn't appear that he is. That dude she's so turned on by that man. She knows a lot of other guys, like, that's kind of it. So for me, the terms of the sexual attraction and piquing their interest, I do think that it's more that men have to do to get that out of women beyond just working out, dressing well.
Yeah.
I think it's embodying a whole different mindset and approach of how you're presenting yourself to your partner and the world, where a man that's highly in demand, a man of value, and a man that has a lot going on, consistently trying to figure out ways in which he can set aside time for her. And he's showing up as his best form in many spaces and places in their lives together. The dude with the nice car is cool and all, but like, you got one too. It's one of these things where for men, like, there is a hell of a lot of boxes he has to check off. But if he does that well, she will maintain attraction to him probably long term. So yeah, I actually agree with you, man. And that's a very interesting thing that you kind of thought about.
Yeah. What actually made me think about it was, we've been talking a lot about how, like, there's a group of men women make rules for, and there's a group of men that women break rules for. I think some of those conversations have been unsophisticated because a lot of people assume that the rules are made for men who are aesthetically low status, or they're aesthetically, unattractive, etc.
Mm-hmm.
What's been interesting is I found that hasn't been consistent, right? Like I've seen tall guys who don't get women, short guys who do. I've seen rich guys who don't get women, poor guys who do, attractive guys who don't get women, unattractive guys who do. So I've been trying to think about, okay, what is it about the guys that women are attracted to versus the guys that women are not attracted to? And I realized something. Women, and this goes to your unpredictability piece.
Mm-hmm.
Women are not as linear and objective in their thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of goes to the difference between guy pretty and girl pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can
They
all
don't know
think
what
back
they're
at some
talking about.
exactly. We can all think back at some dude who got a lot of hoes, but he wasn't a handsome dude. And then you got another dude, he was swole, chiseled jawline, all that good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and women didn't like him. And I realized it's partly because women are preoccupied with, and I think this is the nuance between sexual attraction versus physical attraction.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the story for them. It's about how does he make me feel? How he makes me look is part of how he makes me feel, but like how does he make me feel? And paradoxically, people ascribe that vanity towards men and say men only date or fall in love with their eyes. But I think it's actually women. Ironically, it's not about if he has money; it's if he looks like he has money, or if he treats me like a man who has money, right? Whereas men, we're objective. How much money you got in the bank, Jeff? How much, what I'm saying? What's your degrees, Jeff? Nah, he sounds smart and he take me out to nice dinners. That's all I need.
Yeah. Funny enough, I again I agree with that, bro. Like I think when you're saying what's the distinguishing factor, let's say there's different buckets of attraction triggers, right? There's a bucket for finances, there's a bucket for aesthetics, like how a guy dresses, there's a bucket for height, there's a bucket for charisma. There's a bucket for the respectability from other men and the desirability for other women. There's different buckets. And I would argue it's which bucket or buckets is a priority in that season in that woman's life. That matters. The older they get or the closer they get to 30 and a little bit older, the more of those boxes they probably need to see. Many of them, especially if they want children and they want a man who can provide. So I'll give you an example of how I know that this changes over time with them.
So are you saying over time they become more objective?
No, I'm just saying their demand, because you got to factor in, they can demand what they want. That doesn't mean that they measure up to get those demands.
Sure, yeah.
But when she's 16 and she's dating a guy that's 23 years old, he just got a car.
Yeah.
And a lot of her high school counterparts don't, right? He got a little money. She ain't worried about a 401k. She's not worried about a retirement package. She's not even worried about what type of father he's going to be or potentially could be. So he doesn't actually have to check off that many boxes. Now, when she's 24 and she just 22, 24, and she just graduated college, are her expectations in those boxes getting lower or higher? Probably higher. Because now, what did a lot of them say? At minimum, he needs to be where I'm at economically.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are trashing the guys that do trades and make really great money because their perspective is he has to have a college degree. So what I'm basically suggesting is the same woman over the 15, 20-year track record from 18 to 38 if you look at her exes, like you said, they all won't look the same. Every man she slept with won't be the same guy. But where she was in that season of her life and which of those boxes were a priority. When she goes through hot girl summer, does a whole, and she's not looking to commit. Is she looking for all these boxes to be checked off? Probably not. Right? She's looking for the boxes that excites her. She's looking for the boxes that's gonna help her feel fulfilled in the area of sexuality, of excitement, of having a good time, being fun, and she's not super worried about a lot of these men during hot girl summer. What's their overall financial stability? Either he can pay for the flight or he can't. Either he can cover my meal or he can't. Either he's a good time and looks good or he doesn't. So when I'm basically suggesting this, do you notice when they first come out of a situation and the first guy they hook up with, their standards are totally different for the guy they left versus the guy they hooked up with? So season, time frame, where they are in life, and what happened recently are all factors in which of these categories are a priority to them when they're choosing to sleep with, date, and pursue and be pursued and allow themselves to be pursued by men. If that makes it, the same guy that they'll settle down with at 30, 35 is not the guy they wanted at 21, 25. So they're adjusting based off of their age, what their options are, whether they have kids or not, failed previous experiences with men. All of these are shaping and shifting depending on where they are and which season they are in life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. I think my hesitation is, I think there are a lot of outlets that preach to men to optimize for money and looks and height and all that good stuff.
Mhm.
And I think they preach it in a way that resonates with men because we're objective, right? We're like, I got to do X, Y, and Z to bench 315 pounds. And once I bench 315 pounds, something gets opened up to me. And I got to do X to run a 4.4. And once I run a 4.4, something opens up to me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men do those things, make six figures, gain the status, etc., and they don't get the outcomes that they want because they believe that women's curriculum is objective. I found that most women don't know what 6 foot actually is.
Nope.
They either think you're tall or they don't.
Well,
Most
they
women
used to
don't know
walk
what
around
6
in
feet is.
heels. They're always walking around in heels, so that's why their perspective is already skewed by default.
Yeah. But you'll see, and that's why I like watching Pop the Balloon. I don't know if you enjoy watching that as well, but it's an interesting social experiment for me. You'll see guy A and guy B. Guy A is 6'1", guy B is 5'10". She'll say guy A is too short, and she will be head over heels over guy B. But to men, we're like, women want tall men. But with guy A, his aura wasn't tall, or his demeanor wasn't tall, so he wasn't tall to her. Versus guy B, she made him feel, or he made her feel a certain type of way. So either he appeared taller to her, or the height was it moved down the hierarchy of importance. So that's what I'm trying to investigate. Are women's curriculums, these things that they ask for, are they as objective as we believe they would be for us?
Yeah. So when I think of it through the lens of they change based on the man in front of them, the season they are in life, and what they have going on, that I believe that. I don't like I objectively believe that is their objective standard. How I feel, what I want, what I've tried already, what didn't. Oh, I can't date a Gemini because the last Gemini, blah 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 blah. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
Chris
that's
Brown, though,
yeah. Like a man expecting me to pay on the first date. Oh, Chris Brown, I got to pay $500. Like
$1,000.
$1,000, right? And what I'm getting at is all of those things are at play. And it's not just where season she is and what she's got going on and how soon she is to the wall that factors all these things in. It's also the same guy in different seasons of his life in them meeting.
That's true.
Are you the guy where in the past they didn't want to give you a chance? 5 years, 8 years later, they done fell off. You're better than you've ever been economically. They see you all over social media. And now they're trying to shoot their shot, 40 pounds with 2 more kids. Same guy. She didn't want, back then she didn't want you. Now you hot, they all on you, right? As the great philosopher once said. So
Michael Jones.
My stance is that when you understand that, the reason why you as a man are trying to maximize on the things that you have control over in terms of personal and individual growth is not for women.
Right. Right.
It's for your purpose.
Right.
If you
Right.
centralize what your purpose and reason for being here is, if that's the central thing, if that's what's in your main focus, women, relationships, friendships, everything else actually orbits around that. Everything else should orbit around that. So the guys who do all of this just to try to get women in the end, it's backwards.
Yeah.
If you get really good at honing in on your purpose and allowing that purpose to be for allowing others to see the value of that purpose, you're going to be valued by default. If I'll give an example, I've been doing therapy for a decade. Now all these people all of a sudden know I'm a therapist. But I honed in on wanting to be one of the better therapists in the city of Philadelphia, or one of the most well-known therapists who can do great work with couples and trauma and the Black community specifically. That's my pride. That's what I care about, giving a voice and giving a perspective that's often ignored in the urban settings. That's my lens. That's what I'm here for, to me. So the better I am at doing that, the better I am at communicating that message. The better I am at communicating that message, the more I'm respected in the field. The more that I'm respected in the field, the more opportunities that I have for speaking engagement, collaborations, business opportunities, etc. The more that I'm able to do that, talking to a woman isn't that difficult at all.
What just came to my mind is there's I don't know if you're familiar with James Sexton,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
divorce attorney.
Mhm.
One of the quotes that he says a lot, I don't know who originally said it, but I love this quote. He says, "I wish I knew no astronomy when stars came out."
Mhm.
And basically, I say that to say, I think part of the reason a lot of men are married to female validation is like the ultimate validation is
Mhm.
because there's a significant dopamine hit when you, just like I use the bench press analogy, when
Mhm.
you check off those boxes and you're validated by female attention. But I think what we're both saying is that if female attention is your validator, you'll never be successful
Correct.
because you have to sacrifice that being the prize, quote
It
unquote,
never ends.
to actually be that guy.
Mhm.
I think you also have to sacrifice the dopamine hit of that carrot stick that female validation has been for men for eons. So like
Mm.
how do we navigate that as men and understand in this new posture as my garden takes priority over my Eve?
Mhm.
It's not going to be as magical in
Mhm.
existence. It's not going to be as rewarding a journey relative to what we've been raised and socialized to believe was the ultimate validation.
Yeah. The two things that I think will zero in on helping men to do a much, much better job of this. Let's say we set aside the whole centralizing your actual purpose and not women or their validation, so to speak.
Yeah.
Number one, if men start focusing on these two things, it gets way, way easier with how to screen this stuff, how to step away from it, how to engage in it, how to reward. The first thing is you have to get used to and accepting of disappointment from women around you.
Mm.
You will not be a man and you will not be a leader if you are scared of the disappointment of the women around you.
It's a fact.
If their disappointment, if their displeasure, if their unwilling, if their likability is so big to where you can't move, say, or do anything without their say so, you're functionally a woman in men's clothes. You've elevated their emotion and opinions above your own morality, your own thoughts, your own truth. So you have to accept and get used to their disappointment. I'm not saying you got to always seek it out, but you can't be scared of it and led by it. Number two, it's the other piece. Because a lot of guys that in the red pill space love to do that piece, piss women off, get them all upset, get them riled up.
Yeah.
The other piece of it is you have to reward the women who are doing, living, and displaying what you're looking for in women. That's positive. So what they're seeing is, oh, he's not an a-hole. He actually loves her. How is she acting? How is she dressed? How is she conducting herself? So he has no problem, being disappointed or getting women who don't respect their bodies and live in any type of way and care and always arguing with men and always super aggressive. He has no problem saying things that they don't like to hear. But the women who respect his views and values, and he also respects them and treats them well, he gives them the world. So the woman who up front is asking how much I make and how much I got to pay up front, she gets nothing from my wallet other than what I had to pay for to end this dinner if we were out to dinner. The woman who barely brings up money, she gets the helicopter ride before I propose to her and of us flying in the city of her skyline of her home city, her hometown. So that's what I'm suggesting is we have to walk in truth and be comfortable with them being disappointed or upset with us at times, respectfully. And then also reward the women that's living and being what it is that we claim that we want. If you focus just on those two things, a whole lot of outside noise don't matter. Ratchet, listen, I've been with ratchet women. They were exciting. It was fun. It had its perks, right? I don't even, that's not even a thing to me anymore. That's not, my wife could leave me tomorrow and I'm never going back to certain types of women. Ever. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going back and forth with them. If I'm asked a question, if I'm given an opinion, it is what it is. You don't even, sometimes I'll make statements and it's not a conversation. I said what I'm going to say and that's the end of it. And if you get used to that piece and then you reward the women who you actually claim and say that you love and respect how they're approaching life and dealing with men, life gets a whole lot simpler, believe it or not. To me, it actually gets less complicated. Now, what happens is when you're constantly tiptoeing around all the women around you and what they say and what you can't say, and if you can't critique Kamala Harris and if you can't speak on this or can't talk about that, you're not even being you. You're just being the version of what you think these women will accept. So that's, to me, those are the two things I think as men we just need to lock in on. If we do, you'll just be more comfortable in your own skin. You'll be more masculine and you'll actually start to be seen as a leader, even by the women that disagree with you.
That's a fact. That's absolutely a fact. I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you've got 20 more minutes, I just want to go into the male loneliness epidemic, since that's been a popular topic of discussion. Let me play this video real fast, and then I want you to weigh in on it.
Notice how there's no female loneliness epidemic? We're like going back to school and becoming the most educated we've ever been in all of history. We're advancing in our careers and climbing the corporate ladder and becoming the breadwinner in a lot of our families.
Turning 40 this year and everything is just hitting me right now. It's like not where I wanted to be. I haven't succeeded at anything. I haven't even tried. Like, I don't even know anymore. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to cope with anything.
We're traveling with our friends and taking Pilates classes and learning how to cook or sew or paint.
I'm telling you, that singleness only hits you at night. When you ripping and running throughout the day, when you at work, when you whatever extracurricular activities, when you doing hobbies, when you at the gym, you don't even care about being single. That's not even on your mind. But when you pull up to the house at night and you get in that bed alone, that's when you be like, I really wish.
We are developing ourselves and strengthening our bonds with other women.
Still on my mind, and we build it up.
Can we just stop pretending that we don't want or need each other? Can we stop pretending
Yeah, we don't need him to respond. We've got Jeff St. James in the house. So I brought that up.
Is it cold in here? Is winter here already? Oh my God.
I
Listen,
brought
man,
that up.
Go ahead.
I brought that up because I think we have I have this conversation with women in my life often, because the burden of change or the burden of proof in this intergender war is often placed on men, right?
Mhm.
And the evidence in part is a lot of men are lonely. They're suffering from a loneliness epidemic. Y'all need us. We don't need you. We have our friends, we have our activities, our groups, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't get the other side of the narrative where no, they're lonely too. It's just easier for them to not appear that way. The branding is better, right? But the company is also failing. What are your thoughts, brother?
Winter is here. And when Mother Nature and Father Time walk in the room, you about to get jumped. And the reality is for every man that's telling them this is what's coming. And I saw the way that they cheered, many of them, when Kevin Samuels died. So I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to say how I feel. I'm going to project out what the studies and data is projecting, what things are going to be happening at 2030 and 2040 for a lot of these people, let alone especially and specifically women, because I actually care. I joke around about this stuff, but it's actually like we are not, our replacement rate is so bad. And so many men are opting out of relationships, not even trying to get married. Women are now having to decide if they're just going to have children by themselves or not at all. We have a lot of people that are heading towards becoming genetic dead ends that have made it to this point in history, which is crazy. And I'm talking about females. There was always a smaller percentage of men that were always able to reproduce in comparison to women. And this is the first time in Western countries where such a large demographic of women are in danger of not reproducing. So I know when the stats are saying that they're using antidepressant and antipsychotics more than probably potentially ever before, I don't care what social media trends are saying. I'm looking at the data that's saying you're not taking antidepressants and antipsychotics because you're happy, because everything's going well. Most of y'all are complaining about how much you have to work when this is what you signed up for, not knowing that you have to keep working until your situation change. So when we choose to speak on these things, we know that time is the ultimate teacher. We know it. We're just choosing to, there's just men that's telling you the truth and they're saying it in a way because they get genuine enjoyment out of you all finding this out after the fact and being humiliated. And then there's actual men that care about the state of the community and the relationship between men and women and want us very quickly to grow up and realize if y'all don't get out of the superficial stuff, if you don't get out of your ego, if you don't stop displaying a lot of the narcissistic traits that you're projecting and claiming onto everybody else, and if you don't realize that if you're the common denominator in all your failed relationships, there's clearly something you're doing wrong and you need to change. And perhaps you're poor at mate selection. If you don't in real time humble yourself, like I've said this to people, but especially ladies who are so proud of the sexual liberation movement and feminism and all the rights and choices and freedoms that they have. If from 18 to 28, your primary goal and function was to pass a test, and you can take that test as many times as necessary, and you have failed that test for 20 years, you do not get to run around and say that you passed the test. You do not get to say that the person who gave you the test was the issue. And you do not get to blame the other students who did not take the test for you. If you had 20 years of trying to do the same thing and you are no closer to it than when you turned 18, you are functionally, relationally a failure. You may be a success in the work arena. You may be successful in a whole bunch of other areas. But then the area and topic of relationships and doing life with men, you are functionally failing. And rather than getting a tutor, rather than getting a mentor, rather than getting a guide, or exploring the possibility of maybe I need to better understand and learn what men are looking for and expecting from me in order to be able to better do life with the man that I want or the type of man that I want. You would rather Mother Nature, time, and reality smack you in the face, and then you end up on these type of clips. So everybody gonna be humbled by the choices and decisions that we make, men and women. I've been humbled in previous relationships where I failed. I'm humbled every day by my wife when I get something wrong. And the people who refuse to be humble, the people who refuse to believe there's a lesson to be learned, and that they're externalizers, and that their locus of control, their perspective is everything that's wrong in my life is the result of the people outside of me, the men, ladies. I'll tell you this: when there's a man that I'm talking to, or when men that are having issues with women, we don't spend an awful lot of time talking about women. We spend a whole lot of time talking about his shortcomings and his issues and his reasons for why he's failing the mark and picking the wrong women and choosing wrong and operating out of a space of scarcity and desperation. And I find that the people who do the best at therapy are those who take ownership of what they have control over to change the outcomes that they want. So all the women that's there, I'm not even happy when I say this. The ones that are going to fix what they're crying about right now are those that take ownership and start making drastic changes to what they have control over even now. So what I think is happening is feminism, society, social media, their girlfriends, etc., influencers have convinced them that they have a prize, they have a gift, and it's something that doesn't change, and it's something that doesn't need to be improved on. You're the prize. What prize needs to be improved on? It's a prize. I am the table. Well, what are you putting on the table? No. I am the table. Like every mantra, every saying, every slogan is about you being a finished product and the men needing to work their way up to earning you. On the panel I just did last week with Fresh and Fit, when I'm sitting with 5 Black women and we're discussing about the state of the image of Black women domestically and globally, and why they're the least married, the highest divorce, and the least clicked on social dating apps. And they're giving all these different reasons and explanations, some legit and some not. And despite all the reasons and justifications for why they feel they can be and dress and wear and have on what they want to, a question was asked by an audience member, where the audience member in the chat asked, ladies, do you believe y'all are in competition with the other women around you? Like in general, like in society? And all 5 of them said no. The least married, the most divorced, with the highest rates of single parent households, is saying that they're not in competition with the women around them. And they're also complaining about the men that date outside of the race and outside of the culture. And they do not believe they're in competition. There is a demographic of women, and this goes beyond Black women. There is a demographic of young women in their 20s, in their late teens, 20s, and creeping into their 30s that believes the way they behave, how they act, what they've done in the past is not a factor for the outcomes of what they're actually experiencing. Yeah. Every person who tells them these things is a hater, hates women, and is misogynistic or is male-centered. They're conditioned to think that way. Feminism taught them you are entitled and free to date who you want, have sex with who you want, and have children with who you want, but it never told them about the consequences of living like that. It never told them that. And then they were taught that anybody that does tell them that are the worst things imaginable. So it's created a narcissistic space where ego and narcissism and vanity is allowed to reign. And when you're done doing that run, there's going to be a great outcome on the other end. A lot of y'all going to be sharing, men. A lot of y'all going to be going to these wives and girlfriends and asking them if they open to opening up their relationship in their homes. A lot of you are going to be buying pet food. And a lot of you may need to start dating other women. And guess what? The outcomes ain't so great for that either.
Worse.
Or worse in many respects.
Worse, yeah.
That's the reality of what's likely on the other end if the ladies who still have time don't recognize it is a competition and you do need to very quickly become a better version of yourself. If the men have to change and grow and become better versions of themselves to even attract you, in order for you to get the type of men that you want, you're going to actually have to care about what's happening in society and who's getting picked and who's not. And if you want to keep listening to social media and if you want to keep listening to your single girlfriends, you can. But don't be shocked if your outcomes don't significantly improve.
That's a fact. That's a fact, brother. I want to read this super chat to you from Mr. Smith. He says, this reminds me of the quote, the worst, most selfish, most inconsiderate woman you know is in therapy right now, being told you are enough. How would you respond to that?
Not only do I agree, there is an element that I don't think a lot of us have factored into when it comes to what's happening in the mental health space in regards to narcissism. Part of narcissism is the elevation of oneself above others.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're going into an environment where you're the focus, where you're the priority, and when you and your emotions and feelings and thoughts are validated, and they don't get outside information other than you, it's kind of created an altar for a lot of the worst people, if they find the right therapist to massage their ego, to massage that pride. Everything that they need to keep being like that and staying like that can actually be feeding and being supplied from the very environment that's supposed to check it and address it.
Damn. Brother, appreciate you again for gracing us with your time, your wisdom, your intellect. Did you have any final words, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
If you want, can you put my name up on the thing?
Yeah, for sure.
So y'all, thank you, man, for welcoming me into the space. Even before I went viral, me and you was definitely connecting, and I respect your views and your perspective on a lot of things. And I think it's dope when guys who just think a little bit more and don't just react can kind of have these types of conversations. I definitely got to get you on for me to interview you.
For sure.
Ask you some questions, because I don't know if anybody's really interviewed you. I just interviewed Dr. Will James last week.
Yeah.
And I just want thinkers to be people who I bring on my platform and bring to my audience as well, man. So I'm excited about being welcomed into these types of spaces and environments and being able to challenge things that a lot of times we're not able or allowed to do. And for those that love this episode or love the content, my channel and all my social media handles is Ask a Brother Podcast. And I am on YouTube. I am on Instagram. I am on TikTok. Soon to be on X / formerly known as Twitter, as well as Spotify and Apple podcasts as well. So all of that should be hitting the scene in September, but those first 3 that I mentioned, especially YouTube, those are already up as well. And just grateful, man. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. And for everybody watching, please, the least you can do, head over to his channel, hit that subscribe button, watch I think this week you posted three videos, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3.
I don't even remember anymore, man.
Yeah, like he's putting in work over there. So if he said anything you resonated with, you found value in, head over there, support the brother. We have to, just like he alluded to during this conversation, we have to spend more time, energy, and effort talking about and supporting the things that we want to see more of, instead of simply validating with our attention the things that we claim to dislike. So Again, Jeff St. James, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. We'll
Thank you.
definitely do this again. Whenever you need me on your channel, let me know. I'm
Yeah.
there, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All
Have
right,
a good
y'all.
evening. All
All right.
right. All right, y'all. We have reached the end of this stream. I appreciate you guys pulling up. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're interested in this mug that I've been sipping on, the We Need to Talk mug, I've got some more in stock. Click the link in the bio. Consider picking some up. As you can see on the screen, Ask a Brother Podcast. Head over to his channel, his YouTube, his Instagram, his X, and support the brother. Or you can also just click the link in the title. Again, thank you guys for showing up on this Friday. Even those of you on Instagram, appreciate you guys watching. I will be back on here with Mr. James Penn Jr. again on next Wednesday. And the brother actually supported the stream. Shout out to Mr. James Penn Jr. I'll be on here again with him on Wednesday as we continue our series about the modern efficacy of marriage and relationship and the whole nine. So again, thank you guys. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend, and we will see you Wednesday. All right. Take care.